Hey, welcome to NAB 2017. I'm at the Zeiss stand talking to Luke about some new CP3's, which look very exciting indeed. So, Luke, CP3's.
Shall I talk you through it?
Talk me through, what are we looking at?
Okay, so we've got two series of CP3's. We have standard CP3's, like this one here, and we have CP3 XD. I'll talk more about that in a minute.
Yeah, definitely. So this one, just
that's
to
a CP2.
explain why this is here, this is a CP2.
Yeah, some of the CP2's will remain. 4 of them will remain. The super speeds, so the 35, the 50, and the 85 T1.5s, this is the 50, will...
Because they've got a faster aperture than any of these.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we're going to keep these. They were always the best sellers in the CP2s, so we're going to keep them running. The other reason people like these is when you fully open the iris, the wheels fall off a little bit, you get a bit of flare, you get a bit of CA, you get nice sort of vintagey look from them.
Character.
Character. That's the way of putting it. So we're going to keep these because people love them. The other lenses, though, are all going to be replaced by the 10 focal lengths that we're launching here at NAB.
So let's go through those focal lengths.
Okay, so we have a 15mm all the way to a 135.
Okay. Do they all cover full frame now?
They do, yeah. The 18...
Before they didn't, did they?
Damn right. The 18 was not the black sheep of the family, but it was the only one that didn't.
It was the only one?
Yeah, all the rest covered full frame. So as you can see, maybe they can see that on the screen there, with the exception of the 100 and the 135, they are exactly the same height. They are almost exactly the same weight. The gears here for focus and for iris are in exactly the same place. So when you're popping them in and out of a matte box setup, really easy, no messing around.
And that goes right the way from the wide right up to the 135s are the same?
Yeah, the gearings are in the same place, but obviously the longer lenses are...
Slightly
the two longer lenses are a bit longer. Okay. Nothing we could do about that. But 8 of the 10 are pretty much the same size and weight. So again, if you're putting it into a gimbal or on a drone where you've got balancing and weight calculations to make, really easy. Just whack them in, whack them out.
And are they lighter than the CP2s?
They are slightly lighter than CP2s. You can see there's a physical size difference. 114 diameter on a CP2, 95 on these. So they fit in with our zoom lenses, the lightweight and the CZs are still 95 as well. What else have we changed? The focusing. One of the few criticisms we got on the incredibly well-selling CP2 range was the fact that the focusing was a bit stiff, particularly if you shot somewhere cold. We've actually put the focusing system from the Master Primes into these. So as you can feel, incredibly smooth, works in very extreme temperatures. Remote follow
So that means that you can use it with the follow focuses that don't need that super expensive, very high gearing.
So you can bring the price down of the ancillary bits you need to make focus remote. So focusing's changed. Some things haven't changed, so you've still got 14 aperture blades in there. So you have a delicious circular bokeh built into them. It's still interchangeable mount system. So the 5 normal mounts that we've had on the others. So the best seller is PL, then EF, then Sony E, then Nikon and Micro Four Thirds. And as I say, that's a user interchangeable mount system. So smaller, lighter, coatings are way better. They're actually, optically, they stand up to the Ultra Primes. So they're about the same size and weight as the Ultras. And the Ultras, bear in mind, are $8 a pop. And these aren't much more than CP2s.
Style-wise, presumably it's fairly similar to the CP2s. It's that size, that clean
In terms of look, yeah, absolutely. Although we'll come on to look later.
Okay.
So that's the CP2s, 10 focal lengths, smaller, lighter.
CP3s.
Sorry, CP2s?
That's the years of experience saying CP2s.
7-year habit, yeah. No, CP3s, quite right, well corrected. Where it gets really exciting is the XD versions. I've got one here. So, that little port is how you can tell it's an XD version.
Okay.
It's basically a development of the Cook Eye system. So it will give you the focus distance accurate to 1mm. It'll give you the focal length, and it'll give you the iris accurate to 1/10 of a stop. So all that information is pumped straight into the camera. But where it gets really exciting is the shading and distortion characteristics. Previously, you would have to measure each lens that you were going to use on set if you were concerned about the shading and the distortion for high budget stuff, which would take excuse me 2.5 hours per lens, and somebody really quite experienced and well trained to do that. All that is built in to the lens. So not only do you not have to do it, but it also means it's far more accurate than measuring it yourself using a chart like we have over there. So that allows you huge creative possibilities.
So to clarify, that's for each individual lens. If you build 50 of these lenses, every
It'll all
single
be slightly
one.
different. Roughly every dozen is the variations built into them. It's actually written on the scale. There you go. So that letter dictates the type or the threshold of the distortion and the shading capabilities. So it gives you tremendous possibilities.
And how does it talk to the camera? Let's go through some of that technical. You mentioned it's through the PL mount for some of it.
Yeah, at the moment this is only available through PL. We have a little box which is over on the setup there. Perhaps we could do another little film showing you that on the live setup, which allows it to talk with various software on the marketplace, DaVinci and all the rest of it. So what can you do post? Imagine you're trying to do a 360 shot. One of the real bugbears of doing that is at the edge of the frame, every lens will distort a bit, it will vignette a bit. So trying to stitch the edges together is a nightmare.
Something that really doesn't look like reality. It's sort of in between, halfway through the image, you get these things which you're used to seeing at the edge.
You get horrible jumps and bumps and it just looks nasty. With this post, you can just dial out all the distortion and dial out all the shading. So it's completely clean at the edges. So stitching it together is a piece of cake. So from practical terms, it's really useful. For VFX shots, it's incredibly useful. But you can also use it for artistic reasons. Distortion is something that people quite like in lenses. So you can actually dial in more distortion on a sliding scale and change the way the image looks. That will even change the way the bokeh looks. It'll squash or unsquash the bokeh. Same
so
with the
you can
shading.
pick it per job. So you can say for one job, I want slightly more distortion on this one. I want a cleaner look on this one. Yeah.
Not per job, per shot, per frame. It does it per frame. Even if you're shooting high speed. If you're shooting at 120 frames a second, it will still do it. Provided your camera can record it fast enough, the lens is perfectly capable of doing that.
That is really
So the
cool.
creative possibilities are amazing. And that's the XD version. They're a little bit more, they're about 1,300 quid roughly more than the standard CP3.
Do we know pricing and availability on them yet?
We do. We've sent that through to ProAV. You should have all that on your website, but to give you an idea, I've stored it on my mobile price list. This lens at random, the 15 XD, is going to be XD, right, so that is 5563 plus VAT. Just as a comparison, the non-XD version is 4263, which is a tiny bit more than the CP2 equivalent. So you're not paying much for the non-XD versions. You're getting a lot of bang for your buck, but you're not paying much. And the XD versions, well, the possibilities are huge.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome, thank you.
Home.